single dad ran into his neighbor at the beach. She caught him staring and said something that left Iser up here. A story about second chances, pride in the beach that changed everything. Ethan Cole had not taken a day off in 14 months. Not since the divorce, not since the custody battle that drained his savings and left him sleeping on the couch of his own apartment for 3 weeks while he waited for the furniture to arrive. Not since the morning his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, had tugged on his sleeve and asked, "Daddy, are you sad?" He had smiled that day, the way dads learn to smile when their hearts are breaking, and said, "No, baby. Daddy's just tired." Tired was an understatement. So when his sister called on a Friday night and told him she was taking Lily for the whole weekend, Ethan had stood in his kitchen for a full 5 minutes not knowing what to do with himself. He made coffee. He sat down. He stood back up. He checked his phone out of habit, expecting a work email or a reminder from Lily's school. Nothing. Just silence. Wide, unfamiliar silence. By Saturday morning, he decided he needed the ocean. The beach at Clearwater was exactly 40 minutes from the apartment complex where Ethan lived. A mid-rise building in Tampa called the Palms, which was neither particularly fancy nor particularly humble. It was just a place where people lived in between the life they used to have and the one they were still figuring out. Ethan knew most of his neighbors by face, a retired couple on the 4th floor, a nurse who worked night shifts and always had dark circles under her eyes, a young couple who argued on their balcony every Thursday night like clockwork, and then there was apartment 3B. He had moved in 8 months ago. She was already there. He had seen her a handful of times, once at the mailbox, once in the elevator, once in the parking garage when her grocery bag had split open, and he had helped her collect a rolling can of chickpeas. She had laughed about it. He had laughed about it. They had gone their separate ways. Her name, according to the little nameplate beside her door, was Claire. He had never learned her last name. He had never asked. Ethan spread his towel near the shoreline, close enough to hear the waves but far enough to avoid the tide. He lay back, closed his eyes, and tried to remember what relaxing felt like. He was just starting to figure it out when he heard a familiar laugh. He opened his eyes. 20 feet away, walking down the beach in a red bikini, sunglasses pushed up on her head and long blonde hair catching the ocean breeze, was Claire from apartment 3B. She hadn't seen him yet. She was carrying a beach bag and talking on the phone, laughing at something. Her whole face lit up in a way he had never noticed in the fluorescent light of the apartment hallway. She looked different out here, softer somehow, more alive. Ethan sat up straighter without meaning to. He wasn't trying to stare, he genuinely wasn't. But the human brain does what the human brain does, and for about 4 full seconds, Ethan Cole forgot to look away. Then Claire lowered her phone and looked directly at him. There was a beat, just one, where neither of them moved, and then, with the calm confidence of a woman who had caught men staring her whole life, she tilted her head slightly, smiled, and said, "Eyes are up here, neighbor." Ethan felt heat climb from his collar to his face so fast he was surprised steam didn't come out of his ears. I was just..." He gestured vaguely at the ocean as if the Gulf of Mexico were somehow responsible. "I recognized you, from the building." Claire pulled her sunglasses down over her eyes. "I'm serious, look, I'm not that guy." She studied him for a moment and then something shifted. The teasing edge softened just slightly. She glanced at the empty towel beside him, then back at him. "You're here alone?" "My daughter's with her aunt this weekend." He wasn't sure why he said that. It wasn't what she had asked. But it came out anyway, the way truth sometimes does when you're embarrassed. She paused. "You have a daughter? 6 years old, Lily." Something moved across her face that he couldn't quite read. Then she set her beach bag down, looked at him with her arms crossed, and said, "You're gonna feel guilty about that staring thing for the rest of the day, aren't you?" "Probably the whole week," he admitted. She laughed. A real laugh, the same one he had heard a few seconds ago on the phone, and said, "Fine. Then you can buy me a lemonade from that stand over there and we'll call it even." They sat side by side in 2 beach chairs they rented for $7 each, drinking cold lemonade from paper cups, watching strangers walk by. It started as small talk, the building, the neighborhood, how long each of them had lived in Tampa. But somewhere in the second cup of lemonade, it became something else. She told him she had moved here from Chicago 2 years ago after her engagement ended. He wasn't a bad person, she said, staring at the water. He just wasn't brave enough to grow, and I needed someone who wasn't scared of growing. Ethan nodded slowly. My ex-wife said I worked too much. Did you? Yes, he said honestly. But I was working for her, for Lily. I thought that was what love looked like, providing, protecting, never stopping. He picked at the rim of his paper cup. Turns out she needed me to just be there, not just the paychecks, me. Claire was quiet for a moment. That's one of the saddest and most honest things I've ever heard a man say. I had a lot of time to think about it. Do you see Lily often? Every week. We have dinner on Tuesdays. I pick her up Friday afternoons and bring her back Sunday nights. He paused. It never stops feeling like not enough. Claire looked at him then, really looked at him, the way people do when they stop performing and start paying attention. But you show up, she said, every week. That matters more than you think. By early afternoon they had moved from the beach chairs to the water's edge, standing where the foam curled over their feet and pulled back into the tide. He had told her about Lily's obsession with dinosaurs. She had told him about her job as a hospital social worker. Long hours, emotional weight, the kind of work that stays with you when you close the door at night. That's why I come to the beach, she said. The ocean is the only thing that makes me feel like whatever happened this week is small enough to survive. Ethan looked out at the horizon. I haven't been to the beach in almost 2 years, he said quietly. Why not? I kept thinking I'd bring Lily, make it a whole thing, a memory. He shrugged. But by the time the weekend came, there was always something, laundry, groceries, a work call I couldn't ignore. He exhaled. I kept putting it off until it became easier to just not. She didn't say that's so sad, or you should take better care of yourself. She just looked at him and said, bring her next time. Kids that age love the water. Yeah, she smiled. And maybe this time keep your eyes on the waves. He laughed, the first real laugh he had laughed in longer than he could remember. Not a polite laugh, not a tired laugh. A real one from somewhere deep in his chest where things had been locked up for 14 months. They walked back to their towels as the afternoon sun started its slow descent toward the water. There was a moment, just a quiet, ordinary moment, where they were both folding their things, not saying anything, and Ethan became suddenly, achingly aware that he did not want the day to end. He looked at her. She was tucking her sunscreen to her bag, hair still damp at the ends from when she had waded into the water up to her waist. There was a stripe of sunburn starting across her shoulders that she hadn't noticed yet. You're going to feel that tonight, he said, nodding toward her shoulders. She twisted to look, frowned. Great. I have aloe at the apartment, in the medicine cabinet. Lily makes me keep a full first aid kit. He paused. That sounded weird. I just meant if you need it. She gave him a look that was halfway between amused and something warmer. Are you always this awkward? Only when I'm trying not to be, she smiled, picked up her beach bag and said, Walk me to the car, Ethan. It was the first time she had used his name. He hadn't realized she knew it. In the parking lot, standing beside her silver Civic with their feet still sandy and the smell of the ocean still in their clothes, she turned to him. For what it's worth, she said, you're not the guy I thought you were. What did you think I was? Quiet, a little closed off. Probably ate cereal for dinner. That was last Tuesday, he said. She laughed again. I'm making dinner tomorrow night. Real dinner. Pasta and garlic bread and the whole thing, if you don't have plans. She said it simply, without pretense. Not an invitation with hidden meaning, just a woman offering food to a neighbor who seemed like he needed a meal. Ethan looked at her for a moment. I don't have plans, he said. 7 o'clock, she said. Don't bring wine, I have wine, just bring yourself. She got in her car. He stood in the parking lot watching her drive away, the evening sun warm on his face, the Gulf of Mexico still audible in the distance. For the first time in 14 months, he didn't feel tired. He felt, for lack of a better word, possible. He went home that night, made pasta for himself, and sat at his kitchen table the way he hadn't in a long time, slowly, without his phone, without the television, just listening to the quiet. Then he called his sister to say goodnight to Lily. Daddy, did you have fun today? Lily asked. He smiled into the phone. Yeah, baby, I actually did. See? She said, with the absolute certainty of a 6-year-old who has been right about everything her whole life. I told you needed a beach day. He laughed. And for the first time in a very long time, his apartment didn't feel quite so empty. Sometimes healing doesn't announce itself. It shows up at the beach in a red bikini, catches you staring, and invites you back to yourself, one honest conversation at a time.